Well, hi everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Live Conversion-Centric Website Reviews with Tim Ash. My name is Casey Murphy, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at SiteTuners, and I'm really glad to welcome you here for one of our webinar series. Now, you might be wondering why we do these webinar series, and the reason is because our mission here at SiteTuners is to influence your visitors to take a desired action on your website or landing page. So what is that action? Well, as you can imagine by looking at these logos, it could be a purchase, it could be booking a travel arrangement, downloading software, whatever the action you want your visitors to make. It's our job to make that happen more efficiently so you make more money. We do this in all kinds of ways for companies large and small. We work with people on an ongoing basis. Sometimes we come in on a project basis to do a quick diagnosis of a website or a landing page and provide some real actionable feedback for you. We can help train people's staff, get your folks up and running, help you select the right tools, the right vendors to support your systems, help you run your A/B tests. And basically, we want to help you succeed, so give us a call if some ideas you like hear from Tim. So now let me introduce our expert, Tim Ash. You probably know him as the author of Landing Page Optimization, and I bet a bunch of you on this call today have read that book and use it daily. He's also the founder of Conversion Conference, and he's the CEO of SiteTuners. He is often seen around the world with a camera in his hand, taking pictures of people and places. He follows the paleo diet if you're into that. I've seen him literally peel cheese off of a slice of pizza and throw the pizza away and eat the cheese. He's a salsa dancer. And as I said, a professional world traveler. So with that, I'd love to hand it over to Tim and let him get going on these reviews.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Casey. After an introduction like that, I have a lot to live up to. Let me show my screen here, and I'm going to make sure that we're seeing the right one here. Hold on one second. That's the wrong monitor. Bear with me. What we're going to do is, as Casey mentioned, is rapid-fire reviews of as many websites as we can get to, and I've tried to pick a variety of them, but they're all there to illustrate common issues that all of you may have. So first of all, thank you for submitting your sites. I'm going to go through this quickly, and if you're familiar with my bedside manner or lack thereof, I'm going to do it pretty honestly and straightforwardly, maybe brutally. But I'm hoping we can all learn from each other, and that you can take some of these things to heart and immediately improve the efficiency of your website as a result. So here we go. Let's just start with the first one, which is build native rather. This looks like a solar energy company, and they want you to reach out and contact them. We'll talk about that in a second. Unfortunately, they have a very, very common problem on their homepage, and that is giant animated pictures. Now you're not really seeing these as they're happening, but they're sliders, and inside of each slider the text flies in and out, so it's almost like going by a moving billboard and hoping that people will get the point of it just as they drive by at 100 miles an hour. And there's all kinds of offers. It's a bit of a grab bag, you know, in terms of why rent your energy when you can own it, or do you want residential or commercial, and so on. So it's really this bewildering, dizzying thing that the graphic designers who put the site together probably did to jazz it up, and it's because, you know, maybe solar energy sites are not that exciting, or solar installers, but I don't think that that's the case. I think the important stuff, unfortunately, is down the page, getting pushed down. And if you really want people to focus on text or graphics even, you can't have motion in it. Motion is what I call the nuclear option. In other words, it just kind of wipes out everything in its blast radius. We can't not look at motion. You'll probably see this come up again as we review some of the other pages, but I just want to start with that one. Motion will grab all of the attention. So tweet that, Tim_Ash. Motion will grab all of the attention on your landing page. Be very, very careful with that. Unless there's a specific reason to have a video or an animation, it can't be used just to dress up your site. Instead, put permanent navigation. So for example, you're looking for residential solar, or are you looking for a new construction solar, or are you looking for commercial solar? Whatever your categories are, help people self-identify. That is also going to be another important theme here as we go along. All right, well, let's move on to Eat Blue. Eat Blue is a website that apparently enables home delivery from restaurants in the Ann Arbor area. By the way, I went there during junior high. Yes, proud graduate of Tappan Middle School, and love that city. Go Blue. Right. Now, obviously, you're taking the U of M colors, so that's good. But the first thing I want to talk about here is that exactly the same issue that we had on the other side. You have this crazy rotating banner taking up the prime real estate on the page. By the way, if you want more reasons not to have that rotating banner ad, just read my book. I have a whole section in my landing page optimization book about the evils of banner sliders. Now, one thing I do like on there is that you have here these logos of restaurants. Again, they're harder to see in light of the giant food shots that are spinning up above, but this will give me some idea of the breadth of your offering. And you do have your most important stuff there above the fold, at least on this large 24-inch monitor that I'm looking at. Order food online, restaurant menus, search by cuisine, or local coupons. I would probably say that most of us aren't just looking for, hey, what's the cheapest crap I can eat today, from a takeout restaurant. We probably have something in mind. And I know you have categories of categories of cuisine, I guess you would call it. You have, unfortunately, too many categories. American, Asian, barbecue, breakfast. That's a bit bewildering. And by the way, I'm sorry, but I don't think that cheesesteak is a category of restaurants. But perhaps I'm wrong. I'm out here in California. Don't remember Michigan being a cheesesteak kind of place. Yo, Philly. But if you look at this is probably something in higher level categories like this might be what your homepage should really be. What kind of food are you in the mood for? And I think it's by type of restaurants, not by type of food. You can't say calzone or cheesesteak. Those are food types. But cuisines really would be Indian, Italian, Korean, American, Asian. That's, well, Asians, again, a kind of a more amorphous category, but you get the idea. And by the way, you don't have to have them all in the same amount of detail. If any of you are dealing with a large number of categories or anything like that, use what I call the rule of 80-20. In other words, provide 20% of the information that represents 80% of what people are looking for. So the greatest good for the greatest number of visitors to your site. So you know what the most popular ones on this site are. You have them in alphabetical order, but I doubt that's what people are looking for. So you know that pizza is probably right up there. Mexican food in most places, or at least again out here in San Diego, is very popular. So you can kind of, why don't you just guess based on past consumption what people are most interested in and put that front and center. So it should be kind of an eye chart, if you will. There's nothing wrong with having different resolutions. So when you go to the doctor and you have the eye chart and there's the giant E at the top of the page and then the letters get smaller and smaller and smaller till you can't read them at some point. Well, you want something like that, and this is something that will, in other words, not everything requires the same level of detail. You can have the most popular restaurant categories be larger pictures, more prominent at the top, smaller pictures one level below, and then you might even go down to text links or a see more expansion to get additional categories. So don't feel like you have to use this kind of tile or grid format and give everything the same equal visual weight. All right, let's move on. Our next one is audiobooks.com. And again, you're going to find a common theme here. Everybody's got the giant banner. Now, to the credit of audiobooks.com, their banner isn't animated. Yay, audiobooks. Good job not having motion on your page. But still, it's essentially a commercial, and somebody said, hey, let's put something up here. Let us tell you a story. Well, what does that even mean? I mean, you're trying to be cutesy about the fact that you have audiobooks. I get it. Audiobooks.com. Your name pretty much says it all. What's more important there is, new to audiobooks, get your first book free. Now that part I care about, okay? And then you do have good stuff down further on the page, great selection, unrivaled apps. I mean, I'm not really looking for unrivaled apps. What you're saying is we have a reader so you can, hear your audiobook on your phone. I get that, but there's nothing particularly unrivaled about that. By the way, just a quick note on editorial tone, using unsubstantiated adjectives, generally not a good thing. So unrivaled, great selection, using the word great, anything you can't back up factually, #1 rated, highest customer satisfaction, whatever objective measures you have, try to avoid, because all that's making me do is put my kind of marketing bullshit filter on high, and I have to filter out all of those words and say, is that really true? Really? Do they have great selection? I don't know. Why don't you just say over 500,000 audiobooks available? Okay, that says a lot more to me. It says like way more than I'll consume in my lifetime. Audiobooks available. That's great selection. You don't have to say great selection. One other thing that I would encourage you to do is not so much focus on the free book, but rather on helping me find a book. So the browse books is probably the most important thing on the site. You have this universe of books, comparable to, say, Amazon, and in terms of the breadth of coverage. So what you need to do is help get me to the books I care about. And that's really important. If I focus in on a category, and then within that category a particular book, that's gold, because then, okay, now I want to hear it. Now I care about that being my first free book if I'm a new customer, or just downloading it and paying for it if I'm an existing customer. So help me find the ebooks, or sorry, the audiobooks. Don't focus so much on your apps. The apps stuff can be moved up here into a supporting role in the upper right of the page. So download our app so you can read the audio or hear the audiobooks. But really, the body of the page should be focused on helping me find my books. All right, let's move on to our next one. Next, I want to talk about SpyFu. And not because these folks were sponsors at our last conversion conference in Las Vegas, but because I thought a software site or a software as a service site would be a great kind of change of pace here. Now, what I see here is increase revenue with the most profitable keywords and ads for paid and organic search. And then it doesn't tell me how I'm going to do that or what SpyFu actually does. So I think that it's trying to focus on the benefit or the ultimate thing that I'm going to get out of using it, but I really still don't know what SpyFu is or how that's going to happen. So I would focus on making a much tighter headline. Keyword research for pay-per-click and ads, or something like that. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how it's positioned or the breadth of it, but make it more factual. One of the things you have to do is, especially on your homepage, instead of having these kind of generic marketing-y things, what I'm looking for as a title on a homepage is validation that I'm in the right place. What does that mean, in the right place? Well, it means, yes, this is exactly what I'm looking for, instead of wandering around in the internet wasteland and trying to see if maybe this is right for me. Just tell me what it is. No bull. Okay. Step 1, enter your competitor's website to get started. That is a very small, kind of scripty little description there above your URL. So if you're going to tie into the notion of competitors, again, the headline I would have would be something like spy on your competitors' pay-per-click campaigns, and then pick a competitor to spy on. Okay, enter your competitor's website to get started is, again, just kind of mamby-pamby. There are some good things. The production quality here is excellent. I would also say that the trust symbols, as seen in, this is very important, and it's clearly seen. In fact, I would perhaps stretch that out right here in an even bigger format and even more media mentions. One other thing with any kind of software, I'd want the validation of your clients. Now, you do have some, 3 customer testimonials down below, but I would argue that that basically tells me, or most very literal people like me, that you have 3 customers. Why don't you tell me how many hundreds or thousands of customers you have, or even include, the free trials that people are. Every time somebody types in a competitor URL in here, you've helped them spy on their competitors and given them a little free report, right? So say over 10,000 companies helped. How many people have used that little search box from the beginning of time? That's what you want to show me as a form of what I would call social proof, or Robert Cialdini would call social proof, and I would steal it from him. But that's one of the forms of influence. If a lot of people like me are doing it, well, I should just follow the herd. It's a safe decision. All right, let's move on and talk next about well-done marketing. And now I am running, among other things, of course, at the Conversion Conference, but also our SiteTuners agency. And so it's a little hard for me to kind of, our business is performance-based. This is obviously a more creative agency, but folks, I got to say, I'm really confused about what's going on here. I don't know what you guys do. You expect me to read a giant quote. There's a blood moon or Mars or something. There's problematics. I'm not sure what that attribution is. First, I think it's a biblical quote, which would be bizarro. Then I realize you're being cute and saying problematics. You know, verse 4, lines 19 through 21. The menu is in a very non-standard place, going against all convention, being at the bottom of this first visual screen. And then when I scroll it up, then it changes, and you get your kind of typical one-page scrolling website with the zebra stripes, you know, alternating text blocks with giant stretchable images, and all caps. So in a way, I would say this is, if you're trying to be unique, you're being unique in a way that is very much like other creative agencies. So I don't find that compelling. It's unique for the sake of uniqueness. What I'd like it to be actually is more functional. One-word navigation up here at the very top: who, how, work, blog, talk. Trying too hard to make it fit into that one-word kind of paradigm instead of actually having navigation labels that are helpful. So I would say that the focus needs to be on, again, laser like, what do we do? Who do we do it for? So go through your own positioning exercises that you may be running your clients through and say, you know, Well Done is a marketing agency for mid-sized healthcare clients that handles full service online marketing. Unlike competitors XYZ, they do blah. So you really have to kind of tighten up your messaging and really make it clear what range of services you offer and what you do. Because I think this is, hate to say it, more about style than it is about substance. I'd like to learn about your agency if I was going to hire you. And I get that you're cool. Okay. All right, let's move on to sharper selling. Actually, another, looks like, agency focused on pay-per-click and consulting services. So you know, one of the things that I see is kind of the fashion is the stretchable graphics going all the way across. My problem with them, and it's not as bad as the motion activated stuff we talked about earlier, but any graphic that is very detailed, photographic in nature, it draws our eye in terms of the level of attention that we give it. There's so many intricate things, the rough kind of chalkboard look of it, the actual graphics, trying to understand what all that means. It's a lot of effort being expended both visually and cognitively on that top banner. And so I would almost, in most cases, you'd be better off removing the banner and just leaving the page title and the bullet points. So unify the body of your page, have that all be a white background, and just be real clear. One thing too, I like your use of logos as again, a trust builder. Be careful about how you use them. This set of logos have very different strengths. One is reversed out, the Unbounced logo, just spoke at their fantastic Call to Action conference in Vancouver. Great group of people. Google partner, Salesforce. You need to kind of equalize for the visual treatment of those so that they're not jumping out at you. So I would refer you, well, actually here, I'll just throw up our own website. You can see how we're treating the logos of clients. We're using them for a different trust purpose, but we worked very hard to essentially equalize the visual impact of the logos and not have it dominate the conversation and just jump out at you because somebody designed a better logo or their logo color is better and so on. So I would suggest the same thing to you. And I would also say that your page goes on and on, also designed to be stretchable and responsive. I get all that, but I noticed that the stuff that I think is most important, which is what makes a PPC expert, that introductory video, as well as the form, get a free PPC assessment, is buried down at the bottom. Now, yes, you have a button, get a free PPC assessment, up here in the upper banner if I scroll up to the top again. But it's so benign that it doesn't really stand out from that super strong background graphic that we were talking about. All right, let's talk next about exclusive tours. There we go. Now, this looks like a, let's see, it's based in Chadsford, PA, but looks like you have worldwide cruise destinations. And the word exclusive to me evokes a high-end something. Exclusivity, rareness goes along with quality or value, something like that, right? The problem that I have with this is that the look of the website just doesn't support that. I think that many people watching this webinar would agree that the production quality of the site is very poor. This is just, and again, I don't know how big your agency is, but you want to look big. There's that famous New Yorker cartoon of the dog sitting in front of a computer screen typing, and the caption says, "On the internet, nobody knows you're a dog." Well, yeah, that's your opportunity, even if you're a small business, to at least look big. And folks, there are templated websites. There's nothing particularly here that I see that couldn't be done in a templated website. You have a navigation bar with 5 or 6 sub-pages on the left. That's basically a little microsite. But the production quality's got to be there. That is the ante to get into the game these days. If you don't have high production quality, you fail the smell test. People form a visual first impression of your page within 50 milliseconds. That's right, 1/20th of a second. They've already made up their mind if you're cheesy or you're professional. And I'm afraid that this site just has a very high cheese factor. So if you're saying, hey, let me book a cruise to an unknown part of the world and let you handle several $1,000s of my family's money, not going to happen. So I think you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot by undermining your position, as your name kind of says, exclusive tours and cruises. Again, looks like you're based in Pennsylvania, based on the fact that you put your street address, I'm not sure why, front and center there in the upper left. But also your logo seems to have euros and other symbols in it and not dollars. I'm not sure exactly if you focus on a certain part of the world. There's the palm tree there, but I wouldn't. It looks a little kind of foreign, exotic, but in a weird way. Without the dollar signs, if it's aimed at a U.S. audience anyway, I don't think it's going to fly very well. I think that the next thing that you have to pay attention to is figuring out what stage of the process people are in. Are you planning a cruise way in advance? Do you have a particular interest in a certain part of the world? Do you want to do a tour or a cruise or a wedding? Well, those are very radically different things. I mean, planning a wedding is not the same as planning a family cruise or an adventure tour. So you really have to kind of say, what's your situation? So on the home page, you'd want people to self-identify and go down a certain path. Planning a wedding, or go here. Or planning a cruise, go here. Planning a tour, go here. That's basically the 3 things that you offer, and they're very different in my mind. And when I show up, I want to feel at home and know that you can support all 3 of those types of activities. Unlike the hot tours, again, that's focusing. If you look at your navigation, it says tours, cruises, and honeymoons and destination weddings, and then you only talk on the page, despite the title here up above it that says the same thing, of hot tours. So that should be one level down under the tour section, if that's what I'm interested in. So hopefully that's giving you a little bit of stuff to chew on, and we're going to move on to our next website, which is Region Airways. Now, I know that we seem to be stuck in a travel theme for the moment. No, just kidding. But Region Airways, and the tagline, the first thing I want to point out, folks, is this was my experience when I got to the page. Boom, a pop-up. It interrupted me. And you know what? It's, as I can see, largely informational. In other words, it's nothing that I have to know before I get to the website. It's something you could just as easily have put on the website, and in fact, it's part of your little rotating banners you'll see when we actually go to experience the page. So it is packed with text. It's got a hotline and an email. Like all this stuff is like all the contact information is stuck into this annoying interruptive popover that I got before you get to even experience your site. All right, well, let's dismiss this, and hopefully it won't annoy too many people, but I think you should immediately get rid of it and look at your page. Now, remember what I said about motion? Oh my God, do we have motion here? We have a stock-like ticker near the upper, right below the header of the page. We have a scrolling price quotes on the left-hand side of the page, and we also have a rotating commercial with graphics and super, super dense text on the lower right part of the page. And all of this stuff is happening at the same time. And my eye and my brain is just freaking out. Like, what do I even pay attention to? This is so much visual clutter. It's actually a visual assault is how I would describe it. So you really, really have to get rid of all that motion. There's absolutely no reason to have any of it on that page. Okay. Now, so first thing I want to understand is what you can offer me, and obviously you want to you have the red tabs there. Those are useful. Flight schedule, service information, destinations, sales, about. That's all good stuff. The form that you have, the main travel form, which is what a lot of people I suspect will be using on an airline site, it looks a little strange. I don't know why it's so squished into the middle. It doesn't have a title that says, check availability or make your reservation or anything like that. You just kind of expect me to jump into the form and know exactly what it's about. And because of the layout, it's also kind of vertically oriented, and it seems kind of disjointed. None of the fields line up. The labels don't line up. Things look scrunched down. So it looks very amateurish. That part of the page doesn't match the visual look and feel of the rest of it. And then instead of a dynamic call to action like check availability or something, you have this very, very limp, nondescript continue button at the bottom of the form. And that poor form, again, doesn't stand a chance in the middle of the motion because my eye will jump down below the form and look at the scrolling on the left and the pictures moving on the right. So it's really kind of, I think that you should think of the notion that less is more. Again, identify what step of the customer journey I might be on. For example, planning your trip, or make a reservation, or check flight status. Those are completely different tasks that somebody visiting an airline site would want to engage in, and you're not making it easy for me as the visitor in that, what are you here to do, task-based way, figure out what I should be focusing on. So it's really, really important to do that. I can't stress that enough. Now, the other thing that would be helpful to me, it looks like you're a kind of, how would you say, specialty airline or a regional airline. So one of the things that you're talking about, Bangkok, Dhaka, Kolkata, you're focusing on a particular thing. So what I would say is make that clear by having a flight map for me, or like those little destination maps. Have a little map of your region or the part of the world that you serve, and draw curved lines from everywhere you fly, so I can at a glance see, with big city labels, or labels of cities rather being big, so I can at a glance know whether you serve the areas I need, because I don't want to go into your flight calculator or making reservations without at least having some visual indication that I'm going to get my needs met there. So I don't know, again, if this is your whole flight schedule. Looks like it is. So looks like you really specialize in just inner city travel among these 3 or 4 places. So please make that clear so that you're not wasting my time. Let's go on to oops, I wasn't expecting that. I clicked on service information and I got an expandable submenu that popped down. If you're going to use submenus, make it clear that there's a submenu under that. I did not expect that slide out or slide down behavior. So make your menu navigation a little different, perhaps with little down arrows indicating before I even click on it that there are submenus available on some of these. So just a little usability tip. Also, I appreciate that you're using your brand colors. Unfortunately, red being part of your brand is a good thing for your brand, and it's a great thing for a single call to action on the page, but red is a very, very powerful color, and you're using it too much. You have big sections of red for your tabs. Even just a header that says Regent flight schedule is red, international flights, domestic flights, the headers of those tables, there's just too much red. And it's not a very useful color. You can't really lighten it because it turns pink or it becomes off-brand then. So you just use red sparingly for your logo and perhaps the one call to action or important button on the page. But you can tone it down. The whole site doesn't have to mimic your colors. You can be a lot more subtle than that and go with neutral colors for most of the body of your page. So that's my other recommendation for you. All right. Let's move on to Great Western Printing. I'm going to look at this page and make the same comment I did about the cruise site that we looked at earlier. I'm sorry, but this page looks like it's stuck in a bit of a time warp. The production quality is not cutting it. You're not going to be perceived as credible with just the quality of this site. So that's what I would start with. It looks very dated. And one of the things contributing to that are the colors, the fixed width, the treatment of the fixed width, the crazy number of different fonts, the very detailed graphic, photographic image in your header, and those, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can see this on the webinar screen, but there are cheesy little birds flying through the mountains in the background of the header. And that is just it's like bad clip art animation stuff. I'm sure somebody had fun with that, but it's doing nothing for your brand. It's just perceived as kind of, yeah, like I said, well, cheesy is the word that comes to mind, so I'll keep using it over. Your logo itself is also very, very detailed. It's probably an okay logo for print, but remember, you're on the web now. And so it's really important to have a logo that has less detail, that doesn't break down in terms of its size, its smaller again, treatments. For example, if we look up here in the browser tab itself, you have your little logo bug or little graphic, as you can see, and yours has become so tiny that it just doesn't work as a logo bug anymore. So you need something cleaner, more poster-like, one primary color perhaps to carry your brand, and it can't be scripty or have a lot of detail in it. So I think you look like a very traditional old-school printer, and you don't look like you're ready for the internet age, which is why I wouldn't trust you. We already talked about the banner. On other websites, won't talk about that. But if we look at the body of the page, well, the overall color scheme, sorry, is one more thing I want to focus on here, and that is it looks industrial and severe. You have grays and dark grays. And that's not exactly a friendly color scheme. I mean, if you're a printer that is dealing with business to business, still, I mean, you can be conservative but not kind of manufacturing slash industrial, which is what kind of comes across here. Lots of text on the page. I'm guessing that's for SEO. The graphics don't look very much like each other. So in this right-hand column, look at the diversity of visual styles that you see there. Stuff against white backgrounds, animated graphics, logos, 3D buttons with drop shadows. It's just a mishmash over there. And then then you have the key graphic, which is a very, very complex industrial piece of machinery. Guess what? I have no idea what that is. Since I'm on a printing site and I somehow stumbled across this, I guess I would assume that that's some kind of printing equipment, but what you print on it, why I should care, or why you have an ugly industrial machine there. If it's to show me how sophisticated you are, then that's okay, but maybe you should put your staff in front of it. So I understand, okay, you're in Denver, you're a printer, you're local, here's your team, and look, you have expensive machinery behind them, so that's, you guys must know what you're doing. I kind of get that, but I would put the people up front, not the machine. The machine would be okay background perhaps, but this looks, again, very sterile, very, very manufacturingly looking. I don't know if that's a word, but and I also don't know what kinds of stuff you print or what you print on. And that's really the biggest issue here, is you're expecting me to read text, and my first reaction is going to be from my primitive parts of the brain, from the reptilian part and the mammalian part. It's not going to be the thinking part of the brain. The neocortex that thinks and reasons and is the only one that has access to language is only used about 5% of the time. We want to activate the parts of the brain that run the autopilot, the ones that like simple choices, that like graphics, that like less detail, that want it kind of dumbed down. Reading paragraph text is not dumbing things down. This is a huge ask of my commitment and of my attention to have me read the text on this page. And if you're relying me on noticing your navigation bar, and this is a general comment, not just for Great Western Printing, don't expect anyone to focus on your navigation bar. Navigation is a fallback. People will only start looking in that navigation bar if there's a failure of the page body. Again, people will only use your navigation if there's a failure of the page body. So be really, really careful with that. If there's important stuff in that header that you want me to be aware of, then that needs to go into the body of the page as additional links or navigation. All right, so let's move on to our next website, which is an e-commerce site called the Nail Superstore. I think we're going to get, you're probably going to get tired of me talking about rotating banners, but hey, guess what? We have another rotating banner, and it's very graphical, and it pushes a lot of the important information down page. The next thing we have, you actually have user interface controls for controlling the banner. I'm expected to click on these little arrows perhaps, so maybe it doesn't move, and that's a good thing. Then you have another carousel down below with just arrived items, and yeah, if I click on that, I can make that thing spin and show me the next 4. But if I look at this page, and most of us, not most of us, all of us are very, very literal, I would think you had 4 items that you sold, because even on a giant monitor, that's all I see. So what's important in an e-commerce scenario? Well, you might feature a huge breakout, huge selling item, or the launch of a new product line or something like that. Maybe if you're Apple, you only feature the iPhone 6 on your homepage because you have a $1 billion worldwide launch around it. But most e-tailers, that's not the case. What you need to give me is permanent navigation. And unfortunately, I have to scroll further down the page beyond super deals and recent items and resource center, and I'm still not seeing how to get to your high-level categories. Where you have them hidden is under what you call departments. So let's go back up to the top and open up that navigation bar. That's what's important to me. And that's what needs to be in tile-like format on your homepage so I can get closer to my goal. The goal of your homepage isn't to sell me a product. It's not to advertise at me. It's to make me aware of the choices I have and get me off the homepage. The goal of your homepage is to get me off your homepage. All right, so yeah, again, some of those categories are probably more important than others. I don't think you need a dozen or more categories, at least at a high level. So tools, you have acrylic, gel, wraps. I don't know. I'm not a painting my nails kind of guy, but do you need all of those categories, or can you lump some of them into higher level categories? Individual nail, nail polishes and base coats. Could that be combined? I think so. Tools and accessories. Yep. Furniture and equipment is a kind of a bizarre one. That's something maybe a salon would need, or I'm not sure, but some of those things you can always create a miscellaneous category and dump several of the small subcategories into that. Okay, if I really care, I'll go poke around, but you're making it very hard to read through a list of a dozen things just for me to figure out what I should be looking for and what I can be ignoring. The production quality is good. It's obviously The product shots are very clean, and it's very clear what they are, so that's definitely a plus. I think the whole page is a little floaty. I'd like to see more definition around the header, the nav area. It looks very busy up there as well, so you might want to make sure that you kind of color code or layer them down, and then from slightly darker to lighter. And be careful of all those little graphics that you have right below the navigation. You have the free shipping truck, the free samples, free gift, and reward points. Those are fine, but that's not really what I'm there for. I think that once I find a product that I care about, that's when I care about the free shipping or free samples, okay? But get me to a page that has a product and say free samples are available. That's when I want to know it in the flow of it, not necessarily at a site-wide level with that permanently pinned below your navigation bar. That extra line of stuff is creating a lot of clutter at the top of your page. All right, let's move on to Fast Passport, or Fastport Passport. Obviously, it says get your passport fast. Well, yeah, that's what I need. What you have, the most important thing on here is the case, the situation I'm in. This is very time-sensitive stuff. I've had to do this a few times. So new adult passport, renewal, lost passport, add passport pages, duplicate passport, those are great. That right there should be pretty much your site. We can get you a valid passport fast. Tell us what you're looking for. So instead of reading all of this stuff, prices starting at, does that really even matter? Because all of your services are different depending on how expedited I wanted, plus the government fees. So why are you talking to me about money? First, I want to know if you can help me. First, I need a new adult passport. So I would take that menu on the left and expand that into tiles. And again, I would make it the importance or the size of those tiles based on how frequently they happen. And just get me off the home page and start talking to me about a lost or stolen passport, because that's very different than trying to get a new passport, isn't it? So there's already a passport number. How quickly can I get it replaced? Do I need to get my picture taken again? What you're doing is you have this giant banner here at the top of this next page, and the content doesn't start until this white part lower down the page. So I would just take them here, have a page title, scroll it up so that they can see something like this much information, and start talking to them about lost passports. The headline should be "Lost Passport, we can help," and then talk to me about that. Now this is where it's appropriate to start talking about pricing. As you can see here, near the bottom of the page, we have the pricing, and it's basically how fast do you need it. It shouldn't be called passport service fees. That's a bit of a mouthful. Anyway, it should just say, hey, how fast do you need your replacement passport? And then I understand what my choices are. Great. And then I can just go right into the ordering process. And right here, when we talk about the ordering process, now let's take a look at what happened here, because we're in the cart a little bit already, but it's selecting 24-hour and next day service for me in this, what do you call it, just a drop-down list. It's pre-selected. The problem is I was on the last page, and that's not what I clicked. What I actually clicked was the 2 business day, I believe, one. So you should make a separate page for each of those. They shouldn't be in the same choice I made on this page I have to make again on the next page. So one of the general principles that I want you all to think about is just focusing on keeping somebody inside of the scope they're in. If I've already raised my hand and told you this is what I'm interested in, never kick me out to a wider scope where I have to consider and disqualify those same options I've already dealt with before. So it's really important to just say that page should be a sub-page. It shouldn't say order now. It should say get details, because you're just taking me to a checkout page, and it shouldn't just be dropping me into the cart. It should be saying today lost passport replacement, $3.99, or whatever the cost is. So you should have a dedicated page for each of those, because I'm not going to put a bunch of things into my cart. Most people are here to do one item probably, and that's how you should treat it. And so there should be a dedicated kind of product detail page for each of the services you offer. All right. Let's move on. I do like that you have trust symbols here. You have Norton Secured, which is important because I'm dealing with it. I have the buy safe guarantee, which is in the lower left. That's also helpful. So I have star ratings, and what's important though is you have this kind of this call out bar with the what would you call it? I guess the testimonials. The problem is those are generic. Those are great experience, highly recommended. Passport was on time as promised. If this page really was down to the level of replacement passport or lost passport replacement, then I'd want those testimonials, even if you just have a couple of them, hand selected on that page to just talk about lost passport replacement. I lost my passport and was going to, miss my kid's, wedding in India. Hey, but I got it 24 hours later. I had it in my hot little hands. Okay, that's what I want to hear there. If it's new passport, you say, hey, we make it easy. They made it easy. I didn't have to stand in line at the passport office. I love you guys. It should be tailored to the specific products or services that are being talked about. All right, let's move on and talk about Gchef. Now, this is very similar to a lot of online marketing software sites I've seen, and unfortunately, I don't mean that in a good way. This is a site that makes it very difficult to figure out what they do. The production quality is reasonable. You have the giant, of course, graphic in the background, and it's a one-page scrollable site, as you would expect, so it probably looks very good on mobile. And scroll it a little bit here. But if we just get to the top of this page, and again, without me having given you a clue about what Gchef does, I bet most of you would have a very hard time figuring it out. It's got some kind of, web dashboard with pie charts and trending graphs and stuff like that, and yet overlaid on that ridiculous complexity, as far as I'm concerned, are the words innovation and simplicity. And I'm sorry, first of all, those are meaningless. Second of all, they're just on the face of them bold lies given the complexity of what I'm seeing behind them on that computer screen, and I still don't know what you do. Now, if you really can't focus it down and say an analytics dashboard for your SEO and content, okay, or the one online marketing dashboard you'll ever need, or whatever you want to say, because you cover SEO, social, and content apparently, you've got to get your positioning and your messaging down tight. And then the next thing I'd want to know is who uses it, for what size companies, or is it for agencies that work multiple client accounts? And so I'd want that trust. I'd want to know how long you've been around, how many installations you've had, all of that stuff. It can't just be innovation, simplicity, and then focusing on this very generic let's talk little button. Well, I don't want to talk. Maybe I want to know what it is, what plans you have available, how much it's going to cost me, what people think of it, what are the features, maybe I want to see a demo. What does let's talk actually mean? So I bet all those things are on your site, but you're sure not making it easy from this home screen. You're trying to be too slick and too clean, but I mean, what you have is pretty complicated software, as near as I can tell. You need to kind of dumb it down, but not to the point where you're just using generic headlines. You need to tell me exactly what you do with it. All right, let's go next to Manhattan Dollhouse. Now, based on the fact that you call yourselves Manhattan Dollhouse, I assume you're a local store, which is fine. But again, the same as we saw with our friends at Great Western Printing, I'd say that you're not meeting the minimum bar for production quality. So these are dollhouses. I'm guessing you have really high-end, nice stuff. But what you have is a page full of text, horrible SEO-like navigation bar on the left, rotating banners, some seals dropped into it, and really, really crappy pictures of super high-end dollhouses, teeny tiny thumbnails. So again, I don't know what you sell or how big you are, but you look really, really small and rinky-dink, and you don't want to look that way. You want to do just the opposite. I mean, what should you call yourself? Manhattan Dollhouse, the highest quality dollhouses in the world. Maybe that's it, And then again, the navigation would be dolls and families, structures, furniture, complete kits and houses, if you sell parts and complete dollhouses. So those are things that make it easy for me to understand the map of the world, what you sell. Okay, and again, the massive amount of text is very old school search engine optimization. It's very crudely done. Google doesn't really care about that much on-page text anymore. They're looking for how people use your site. Unfortunately, they're going to look at what percentage of people came here and bounced off of your homepage. I suspect it's pretty high. Over half are probably going to leave once they take a quick look at this page. So they're actually, through Google Chrome and other methods, looking at the user experience. They're looking at the number of people who buy, or whatever your trackable call to action are in Google Analytics, for example. So you really have to step up your game and make both the production quality higher, as well as, like I said, category level navigation on this page. All of this text about we've been around for 35 years and blah, 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 that's for search engine robots, and it's not for human beings. No one's going to wade through that or read all of that text. All right, we got a couple more I want to look at. Let's take a look at an event website. This is Social Media Strategy Summit, and running the conversion conference. I'm very keen on looking at other websites that are events. One of the things that we have here is kind of a patchwork of text alternating with graphics. And there's happy people, there's vendors, there's people in a room there. So the photography is good, it's high quality, but I just find this presentation of them being in these alternating checkerboards a little confusing. So it looks like, what I would want to know most of all is where are you and when. So Dallas in December, Boston in October, okay, Vegas in February. The focus should be on the places and the times. We try to do something similar. I'm going to try to walk the walk. Right now our big conversion conference for the US is over, but if I just quickly jump over to the conversion conference site, you're going to see that we're talking, making it very clear exactly what I just said, shows and when they're happening. So Vegas for 2016, we still have London and Berlin coming up for the rest of this year, and that's where the focus is. What event do you care about? Can you be there in that time frame? So that's critical for me to understand. And then at each event, you can talk about the event. So once I click on Boston, that's what you want to get me to. Presumably, it would tell me more about Boston. And so I'd say that the home page, instead of a number of tiles, should be something that is just a director or navigation to get to your upcoming events. And the title of each page, now I clicked on Boston, should also match that. So the intent of it, if this is the home page of the Boston one, it's not enough to put it in your little event logo up there. It should say Boston in big letters to confirm that that's where I am. Also, I noticed that the graphics on this page are black and white, and I like that look, and it's a clean look. It doesn't have to be color photography, but just the change from going to your home page where you had the color graphics or the color photography to black and white, I'd say pick one or the other. It's okay to have a black and white look, but just carry that through on your home page as well. Or make this one color. It's your choice, but mixing and matching color and black and white photography is not something that I would recommend. All right, well, we're almost out of time here. As Casey mentioned, I hope you've gotten some really good pointers out of this. Tried to cover a lot of different websites. I just want to bring up a couple of things that you might be interested in. The first of these is our conversion conference. So we ended kind of on an event note. For those of you not familiar, since 2010, we have run 26 events around the world, here all over the US and in Europe. We have a couple of shows coming up in London and Berlin, if you're out that way, coming up here very quickly in the fall. And our big new US mega show is back in Vegas. Last year we sold it out at over 550 people. About a quarter of them were from international, 28 countries around the world. It's going to be another fantastic event. I expect we'll sell out again. So if you want to learn about conversion, 4 tracks, fantastic keynotes, about 25 companies in the conversion ecosystem, check out conversionconference.com. The passes right now, we're putting together our agenda. I promise you it'll be good. Seriously, I will give you your money back if you're unhappy in any way about that experience. Lock it in. This price is only going to last, I think, only a couple more weeks. And then finally, I want to, if you like what you've heard and you didn't get a chance for us to review your site, we are offering free 15-minute conversion reviews from our staff. So if you want a little more personal look, something perhaps not as brutal as the reviews that I commonly do, just look at the qualification criteria on this slide and reply to us by October 7th, and we're going to only do a few of these, and you have to do it in the next week or so. So there's the URL. I believe it is case sensitive, but bit.ly capital CRO review. I want to thank you all for being on the webinar, and hope to see you again on our next one.